Okay? All of this, it should be said, lasted 13 days. It was a 13-day crisis. It was the closest the United States has ever come to a nuclear war, and hopefully ever will. And Kennedy had a tough decision, but ultimately he decided to go middle of the road, placing a blockade on Cuba. So he sent out U.S. ships. He said, okay, Soviets, if any of those missiles are fired, we will attack you with nuclear weapons. And by the way, at the time, the United States had 25,000 nuclear weapons and the Soviet Union about half that, although ultimately it doesn't really matter because it only takes one or two. These 13 days was a time, like I said, that we were on the brink of nuclear war because Khrushchev, responding to the blockade, was very angry and felt that this violated international law and kept saying that the missiles were for defensive use only. The Soviets issued their own threats that they would sink any U.S. vessels in between them in Cuba. And the United States responded by going to what's known as DEFCON 2 alert for the first and last time. That stands for Defense Condition 2. And what that means is that U.S. bombers remained airborne and nuclear missile silo covers where they were stored were opened in case they needed to be launched. On October 25th, finally, first you can see here in a picture how close they came. But finally, on October 25th, a dozen Soviet ships finally turned back, but still missile sites on the island accelerated. Preparations for an airstrike against the silos went ahead, and another letter and exchanges between Khrushchev and Kennedy continued, and they finally reached a compromise on the last day, on October 27th, where the Soviets agreed to remove their missiles from Cuba, and the United States also offered a few concessions. They promised not to invade Cuba, so the invasion plans were halted, and they also promised to remove some of their missiles from Turkey as well as Italy. So that was considered a huge success for Kennedy, especially after the Bay of Pigs, that he was able to resolve this diplomatically without going to war. Other things that were decided with the Cuban Missile Crisis was a hotline was established in 1963 between the Soviet Union and the United States. This was a direct line between the White House and the Kremlin, where if there was a risk of nuclear war between the two countries, they could pick up the phone and immediately talk to each other, and hopefully that way prevent a nuclear war. In August 1963, a limited nuclear test ban treaty was also signed. This banned testing of nuclear weapons above ground. 100 other nations signed it as well, and it was a big step towards actually making some agreements on how to limit nuclear weapons. Again, this was considered a big foreign policy success for John F. Kennedy. It restored confidence in his presidency, and thankfully it prevented a nuclear war. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.